Away with you, boom tube. Oh my god. Once again, coming to you live on tape from a secret, undisclosed location hidden somewhere deep in the bowels of downtown historic St. John's, Newfoundland, comes In the Library of Graphic Literature with your host, me, Wallace Ryan. Unfortunately, Luna isn't here with us today, but we were going to have this giant show, but then we figured, well, it was almost so giant that we'd have to split it into two. So I said, well, we'll keep like all the omnibuses for next week's show, because there were a lot of omnibuses. Figured we'd go omnibus crazy, and for this show we'd do all the rest. So unfortunately, it's only me here today. I do so enjoy working with Luna though, because it's kind of neat to have someone to talk to as you're doing this, and but every so often I take control. Anyway, today we're going to start with a sip of tea for me. I get this Earl Grey tea from a place, Cup or Drop, on off Harbour Drive. Delicious tea. You check it out and tell them I sent you. Anyway, we're going to start today with the new printing of, let me get this right in the frame here, of Dick Tracy. This is actually a reprinting of, well, funny enough, a reprinting of comic strips. Anyway, what happened was when see on the side there, the good old Library of American Comics, when they started out those many years ago, one of the first things they put out was the complete Chester Gould's Dick Tracy. But it came in a smaller size, and you ask, how smaller a size? Well, here's this one, and here's the other one. So obviously, it was a lot bigger. Not only that, but I don't know if you can see behind me up there, I do have they continued after volume 6. They continued with, they made it the Dick Tracy bigger, and they continued right to the end of this. But of course, everyone who bought the collection, like me, always kind of grumbled about the first 6. So these folks, I mean, talk about responsive. They go out and they put out the first 6 volumes, and they put them out pretty quickly, which of course was a little bit of a strain, but it's still they were still pretty cheap anyway. What is it here? $59.99. Still not bad for a collection of classic comic strips. Now, these two also, it ran for about, I'd say Dick Tracy ran for about 10 years. It was more like your average police comic strip, your police procedural, as they would later call them. But it was around the, and it's funny, it took about 10 years until within the last 8 or 9 anyway. That's when he started to bring out the really different, really weird villains and stuff like that, and it changed. It just seemed to get a lot better. But still, I still actually enjoyed the early Dick Tracy. I mean, it's a lot of words in it, but you can even see, and this is the cool thing too about buying these all, as I said, you quickly see Chester Gould's progress, any evolution. There's something about his comics I always like to just see. There's a simplicity of line to it that's almost Schultz-esque. Now, of course, as I'm talking here today, by the way, and here's the other one. As I'm talking here today, you will hear traffic noises and stuff like that, because I'm shooting this it's probably around 4 o'clock or so in the afternoon here, Newfoundland Standard Time, and so you will hear it, but that's also too why I'm shooting without lights, is the sun is shining into the studio. Anyway, so there was volume 2, 3, and I'm not going to open those, I'll open those later. And 4 and 5 and 6, I do believe, is just being released, so I'm going to pick up those. I do love Dick Tracy. There's just something cool about it. And even in this one here, even in volume 4, the Blank and the Purple Cross gang, they're starting to really get into it there. I mean, even the sound, right? And I like this. They actually included this little thing from before. But anyway, and the only difference now between these and the ones that are up on my shelf is also these are now the libraries now with Clover press, and you'll see the little Clover there. I like the fact that they kept it very discreet in terms of rebranding it. I'd like to see that, as do all collectors. Now we're going to go on to one of my favorite sci-fi, well, not sci-fi, well, I guess sci-fi-esque science fantasy, or okay, maybe just plain fantasy, is of course the amazing Michael Moorcock, and this is Moorcock's Multiverse Volume 1 with Simonson and Ridgway along, and Reeve. It's this, I think it was done by DC originally, was it? Oh yeah, it was DC Comix, yeah. And so they had Walt Simonson, John Ridgway, and Mark Reeve. Letters, of course, by John working fabulous. But as always, anything that Walter Simonson does is just always bloody amazing. So you got to pick it up. But Ridgway being in on this, he does a tale here. I do believe it's of Elric. I'm still in the process of reading this. But looking through it, it was just like, oh, this... I didn't collect it at the time, and I wish I did. But the one thing I have to say about Michael Moorcock now, too, Moorcock is possibly one of the... Because I read all his a lot of his novels when I was younger, and it's one of the most incredibly imaginative writers that I've ever had the honor to read. Okay, coming right along here now. This is almost a bit of a... This is a prose book, and this is actually a part of the Mobius Library. Unfortunately, it's in paperback and not hardcover. I hope they release a hardcover edition, because I would buy it. This is Dr. Mobius and Mr Gir. Now, the cool thing about this, it's basically interviews that this guy had with Mobius over many years, and it's quite interesting. I'm as you can see, I'm a good bit into it, and there is a little bit of art thrown in just to keep it all looking sweet. But a lot of interesting stuff about Mobius himself, and straight from his mouth. Apparently, he didn't like drawing that Silver Surfer book for Marvel as much as people would want to believe. But fascinating read, definitely. Because I'm such a huge fan of it, I had to buy it anyway, and I'm buying the whole Mobius Library from Dark Horse anyway, because it's fabulous. Now let's move right along to another book from Titan. Actually, that other book, the Multiverse, was from Titan. This is something else from Titan. This is Phillipe Druillet, Grand Prize winner at Angoulême. Of course, was a huge Phillipe Druillet fan right from the start. Even back in the 60s, when a lot of his artwork was, all his stuff. The artwork is just amazing, and it's all hand drawn too. This is not one of his more amazing ones. It's not as detailed as some of his later works would become, or his earlier works were. Sorry. As a matter of fact, there's a look at some of his earlier works. There's just something super, super cool about him that I loved when my friend Jerry and I were first exposed to heavy metal in '77. We both loved Mobius, but I also loved this guy for some reason. There's just something wild and crazy about Druillet. And I'm wild and crazy for Druillet myself. It is, how you say, beautiful. And last but not least, and I actually covered Volume 1 of this series recently. It was Prince Valiant. Dun, 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 dun. And Prince Valiant, now this is done by Murphy. What's his name now? John Cullen Murphy, I think is his name. Foster John Cullen Murphy and Cullen Murphy. Okay. And this one is actually really towards the end of Hal Foster's stay on Prince Valiant. Murphy had really taken over the the reins here, and I think if it not this one, it'd be like maybe the next one, which was when he finally gave up on it. But I mean, still, Murphy did an amazing job. So it is. It's. I think it's still worth collecting and reading. Now I have actually started to, because I've been collecting this for years, for many years. They were nice and cheap, which was the other good thing. Very high quality printing. But I saved them up because I figured when they started coming out, that's when I was going to read them and put them all in one big stack and just spend months reading through them and become a little bit of a Prince Valiant expert on the subject, or at least Hal Foster's contribution to it. But the artwork itself, back in those days too, a lot of the early comic book artists, of course, they would be copying directly swiping from newspaper comic strips, and the two biggest victims of this theft were Alex Raymond, who was doing Flash Gordon and the such, and Foster was the other one. A lot of people would use his poses and all that, and why not? You're at least stealing from the best. As a matter of fact, in my book of the day, I mentioned how even Kirby intentionally swiped a demon costume that Prince Valiant dons in the first volume, and he uses that actually as the basis for Etrigan when he creates the demon for DC, almost as a swipe at them, because they'd done away with the fourth world, and it was a little bit of an artist's kicking the head from him to them, because they never noticed that the difference was only years later. I mean, the similarities, it was only years later that it came out, but it's so cool. But anyway, Prince Valiant, and anything from Alex Raymond too, by the way. But anyway, that takes us right up to date here now. Of course, check out our book of the day that pops up. We actually we got our new computer here, so we took a bit of time off to get used to the whole thing, but now we're back at it, and so there will be a lot more books of the day, and of course, the Thursday Comics has returned, the podcast that holds no bars. Myself and local raconteur Dennis Osborne, we look at all the news that's fit to talk about. We do top 10 lists, kind of like we do here, but we get to swear and say anything we want on that one. So you get to see uncensored Wallace on that one, for instance. That being said, that being censored, now where did I put up? I'm going to leave you folks for today, and we'll be seeing you soon. And like I say, check out the check out Thursday Comics this week. Is, I think it was the top 10 comebacks, because it was a comeback for us. So yes, check them out, and subscribe and share too, because we're still kind of low in our numbers. Although our last week's episode on Ed Piscor on his lynching was went through the ceiling. So check it out anyway, and him and I are in it for the love of comics, just like we are on this show. So that being said, thanks for having me over. See you next week. Bye. Okay, Boom Tube, take me away. Where is? Oh, okay, I can feel it. Oh, there it is.